Once again, Lieutenant Governor, thank you very, very much for leading us and enabling these changes and these opportunities for businesses, including small businesses. And now to you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Clearly, our focus is where Dr. Scott has put us, but the economy is also a critical piece, as well as the schools. But today, we're talking about the, what we've been doing, what I've been doing in preparation of this transition, and so we're heavily engaged with Dr. Alexander Scott, along with the team that is in place, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep people safe in the state of Rhode Island. So that's what I want people to know, that we are actively involved in a way that you would expect. And I would think that we're going to see many, many advancements on top of the good work that's been happening over the last 10 months. We also engaged with the governors throughout the country. It was on my second call this week with the White House, and talking about ways that the Biden administration are going to help our states, including this week where they mentioned that all FEMA expenses are going to go retroactive to 2020, and 100% of that coverage is going to be provided to the states, which I think is an indication about what is coming our way to make sure that our state is fiscally sound as well as safe. As far as the testing goes, it has been announced, and we'll make sure that we'll keep track of it and keep you track about what the additional vaccines look like. Dr. Alexander Scott mentioned that we moved from a 14 to a 16 and change doses per week. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to get those vaccines out as quickly as possible and into the arms of the people who most need it, as Dr. Scott has outlined, and I don't have to go into more detail on that. I think one key thing that happened this week is that we've engaged the municipal leaders. We've engaged the municipal leaders in a way that now the interaction is real, and I believe that they're going to play a significant role as a result of that interaction, not only with meetings, several hours of meetings with our municipal leaders, collectively and individually, both with me and with Dr. Alexander Scott's team, to make sure that we insert our municipal leadership in a way that is going to help get those vaccines out as quickly as possible to the people that, as Dr. Alexander Scott has outlined. So both Dr. Alexander Scott know and I know it's critical to engage municipal leaders. And they stand ready to do what it takes to keep their communities safe, but also do what it takes to coordinate in a way that I did as a mayor, bringing municipal leaders together to talk about the most important issues that face our communities. And right now, the most important issue that we have is the safety of the individuals that live in our communities. So I'll leave it at that, but I do want to just echo what the Secretary said. PPP loans, critical that we do everything we can to make sure that every single small business in the state of Rhode Island accesses those dollars. And I would ask the local media to really reinforce that. Last time, close to $2 billion came into the state of Rhode Island. This time, we are going to try to exceed that. And I think that we are prepared with the work that we've done and Commerce has done to make sure that we get those dollars into the state of Rhode Island in a way that's going to help our small businesses, with the understanding that those dollars circulate 2, 3, 4 times. So the advantage there is significant and very important. And the other one mentioned in terms of the grants and the CARES Act, I would expect that we'll certainly bring that forward again and identifying ways that we can help the small businesses do that. And then finally, the incremental flexibility that you started to see today. I think you'll see more of that, but we also have to understand that we need to make sure that we keep the infection rates down. We need to make sure that our hospitalization rates are down, and ultimately we want to make sure that the death rate vanishes. It's gone. But we want to do everything we can to make that happen. And as Dr. Alexander Scott said, the strains that are out there are real, and we need to make sure that everybody in our state protects themselves with their masks, social distance, follow some of the thoughts that we have expressed here today to keep you safe over this weekend so that we can continue to keep people safe in the state of Rhode Island and also open up our economy.